I made some moonshine, and I am Viking descendants, so we had to enjoy that. Here, enjoy this ship in heavy sea. All right, you guys are out at sea officially now. That was a Viking ship, heavy in the sea, if you don't know. Sounded like a bunch of wind and stuff, but whatever.
That was us at sea enjoying Viking Moonshine.
And popcorn. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your evening as well, this chilly Florida evening. I think it's like 60 degrees outside now.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's about time.
Yeah, and getting close to Christmas, this will be very nice. So anyway, back to the freedom thing. You know, a lot of people don't realize what they have because they always grew up with it, and it's important to maintain it. You know, we all have different views, and we all come from different perspectives, and some people like to be called Democrats, and ironically, or Republicans, pardon me, and ironically, I've had very good conversations with the people themselves, and, you know, I've bumped into a couple of Democrats who said, no, I love my guns. I love being able to go out and fire them at the range. I love hunting. I love this. And I'm like, well, how is it that you vote Democrat if you love your firearms? Because Democrats want to disarm you. He's like, look, I don't believe in everything that my party representatives claim to believe in. He goes, but, you know, at the end of the day, I don't mind helping people that need help. I go, well, how do you feel about having the majority of your income stripped away from you to fund anything from a new war, you know, so that we can take over somebody else's land, to people that refuse to work? He's like, well, no, none of us like that. I go, so I'm so confused as how you're a Democrat. Anyway, so to elaborate on that point, if you talk to people and stop putting these stupid labels on everything, you'll find that all of us, the people, are very much alike. And we need to kind of tear these labels away and start listening to the voices that are out there that have a common goal in mind. That, for me, at this moment, in this place and time, happens to be the Libertarians, until that name gets hijacked. And I promise you it will get hijacked as soon as they take momentum. The same way that the John Boners of the nation use the name Republican but don't represent any of the Republican ideals. Right. However, in the mind of the Democrat, that's all they see as a Republican. They don't realize there's good people out there that are willing to contribute money to great causes that Democrats themselves wouldn't give 10 cents for.
Right, and that's an excellent point. I'm glad that you bring that up, because what I want to express to all of my Republican and Democrat friends is that, look, those of us on the ground level, those of us who aren't career politicians, we all want the same thing. I think that's something that kind of gets lost in the message.
Popcorn and moonshine?
Well, besides popcorn and moonshine, we all want the same thing. We all want individual liberty. We all want free market capitalism without all the regulation. We all want non-interventionism in regards to foreign policy, and most importantly, we all want individual liberty. We want the liberty to be able to say and do whatever we want, and we want to have the liberty to be able to ingest whatever we want. As an example, in regards to the legalization, decriminalization of marijuana here in the United States.
Well, what about government enforcing, let's say, an Islamic bound initiative to force you to bow down to somebody else's beliefs? What about something like that?
Are you talking about the recent Home Depot?
No, I'm not. Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Home Depot is supposedly recently in a news column where kind of bowed down to the push by CARE, which, from what I understand, is connected to fundamental Islamic extremism to promote Sharia law and kind of educate their employees about Islam and
in the culture. Well, what happened to separation of church and state? How can
Right.
how can you force a religion down somebody's throat in America?
Right.
Like, I mean, if you were Christian, you could pretty much be killed and nobody would care.
Right.
Now, and I'm using a little bit of extreme referral, but like if you're Christian, you can be bashed, you can be mocked, you can be scrutinized, you can be taken to court and have your
Right.
business
You're pretty much
ostracized.
ostracized. Right.
So why is it that an Islamic group would have such an impact on Home Depot? What are your thoughts?
Well, it all has to fall. It all falls in line with political correctness, which, as far as I'm concerned, anyone who knows me and has followed the show in the past knows that my beliefs in that political correctness is a cancer.
I'm Joseph Werner, by the way.
Political correctness is a cancer. It does more harm than good. What you're doing is you're basically forcing people to hold a personal ideological belief of acceptance of everything.
I don't accept anything, though. What do I do? What does that make me?
That makes you a sinner.
Well, I mean, but that's a religious term, and nobody can really, do anything to me about that.
Right.
And so I'm very curious, and I'm very interested to see where this goes as far as legislation and law. If Home Depot is held to a religious standard, what does it all mean? What does it mean for everybody else? Because things tend to have a domino effect.
Yeah, and the bottom line is that you can't have separation of church and state. Here's the thing: if you're going to push education of sensitivity of Islamic Muslim culture, well, then you have to do the same across the board.
Do you realize that right now I would be executed under Islamic law for Viking Moonshine?
That's true.
Oh, I'm not kidding.
That's true.
So I'm very worried about the course this could take. Granted, it's only Home Depot, but separation of church and state, the government cannot enforce anything. And, government officials also trickles down to judges and Supreme Court judges. You cannot force a religious belief for or against.
Right.
What you can protect as a lawmaker and a law enforcement officer is that somebody doesn't pull out a machete and start hacking somebody to death, because that is illegal.
Right.
I don't care what religion you are.
Right.
You're wrong.
Right.
Period. And hopefully, even some of our law enforcement listeners will help to motivate their coworkers not to shoot people because they're in fear for their life if that person is unarmed. We're all scared of things, but we keep some balance, man.
Right.
The old days, I used to look up to you guys, and I still do, and I still teach law enforcement hand to hand, but I would like to go back to a day where when you see a cop, you're safe. You're not in fear for what he may be feeling on the inside.
Right. Right, because he's having a bad day, whatever the case may be. And touching back on what you were just saying, there's a lot of confusion I've noticed in regards to, like we were saying, for separation of church and state. And a lot of people have it in their mindset, separation of church and state means that you cannot express your religious beliefs in a
civil manner.
In a government, in a government within a government entity, whether that be school or courthouse, whatever the case may be. But that's not what separation of church and state means. What it means is that if you express your religious beliefs, the government has no right to intervene.
Yeah, to or away from, which is my understanding as well. You couldn't impose that everybody becomes Catholic or everybody becomes Jewish or everybody becomes whatever. On the same note, no government legislation can prohibit, because that's the way it's written in the Constitution, prohibit somebody from becoming any of those things. Many people are different things, and it's very disgusting when somebody tries to prohibit them and use the Constitution to prohibit them. I know a lot of my atheist friends, and I actually was borderline atheist and was atheist at some point, but I still realize that the Constitution protects people to believe whatever they want to.
Right.
And so there's nothing you can do to stop that. You can't stop people from praying at school. I'm sorry. You can stop the teacher from leading a prayer at school. Yes, I do understand that. And actually, because the Constitution, You can't force your religious beliefs on somebody else. That's the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it so hard to understand and respect that somebody doesn't want to pray? Don't ostracize them. Let me explain something to you, my Christian listeners. You cannot force somebody to follow Jesus. It's not going to happen. What you can do is live a life so good and so exemplary that somebody would want to follow what you believe in. That's the way it works.
Right.
What are your thoughts, mister?
Well, like you said, to be a Christian is to lead by example. So that's what you have the right to do. You have the right to live as a Christian and lead those around you by your example of living a good life, leading a wholesome life, leading a Christian-filled life, leading a life that obviously shines a light on the teachings of Jesus Christ. That's as far as that goes.
What if I want to be Jewish and have that dope-looking beard and a cool hat?
Then you have the right to do so.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody has the right to tell you you can't do so. So just like when we're talking about Sharia law, for example, nobody has the right to stop you from expressing that, but at the same time, you don't have the right to force that. You don't have the right, like you don't have a right as a Christian to force Christianity down someone's throat.
What if I want to go into Home Depot and execute women that don't cover their hair and cover their face?
Right.
As an Islamic fundamentalist, and not that every Islamic person. As a matter of fact, I would like to bring somebody on who is very educated in this subject. But we're going to go with the extreme, since that's what the media likes anyway. Mm-hmm. Extreme Christian, extreme. Well, actually, there's no really extreme Jewish people, but maybe there are. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. But extreme Islam.
Because who you asked.
And I want to execute a woman because she tempts me because I can see her ankles.
Right.
Should I be allowed? Because that's kind of what's happening now to a degree with the Home Depot situation. That the employees are going to be forced to acknowledge something they may not even believe in.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying. You don't have the right to push that idea on anyone else. You have the right to practice that idea. And
execution of women showing their ankles?
Well, in theory. But then you go into another area of law within the United States, which is you can't commit murder, and that would be considered murder.
Well, let's call it putting someone to sleep eternally and change the legal jargon and legal rhetoric. Are you chewing popcorn?
I am.
Why don't you share that
delicious.
with me?
Viking popcorn.
A big shot out to Jacqueline for making popcorn for the show. Thank you, Jacqueline, if you're listening. We really appreciate you. If anybody else would like to sponsor us with popcorn or sponsor us and have their commercials played on our show, please feel free to get in touch with Robert Cancel at
rcancel41@gmail.com.
It doesn't just have to be popcorn. It can be anything. If you guys, believe in the libertarian philosophy, it doesn't even have to be libertarian. If you're a Democrat, but you love freedom and you don't want to force anybody to chew on something that you wouldn't chew on yourself or to be a slave, you're welcome to sponsor us as well. We don't care. I'm so against labels. And, as I tell Robert, the minute that libertarian gets hijacked by some John Boner type character,
Done.
I'm going to call myself Space Cadet. However, I will not wear tinfoil, just to disappoint some of those listeners that are wearing tinfoil on your heads right now. I value you, but I'm not going to wear it with you.
Right. And just so people understand what libertarianism is,
because aluminum is bad.
If this is your first time listening to
this
show. A libertarian, it falls into a couple different categories. And what we do is we incorporate a little bit of the right, a little bit of the left to come to a kind of middle ground. A lot of people think that, especially Democrats, they love to say that libertarians are really just Democrats in disguise. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because what libertarians believe are kind of a combination of the two, but there are some things that are vehemently opposed to the Democrat policy, which is probably first and foremost individual liberty. And then the second one on top of that...
You mean you don't believe if 51% vote on something that you should not be allowed?
Go figure. And another one, which they kind of can be interchangeable as far as which comes first and which comes second, which would be free market. free market exchange. The ability to have look, we're not